Hi guys, this is Dr. Dan Craig here. Thanks so much for joining us and listening in. About 3 weeks ago, I have a friend who follows this gentleman from New South Wales. His name's Mat Steinwede, and he's quite popular, and he's followed by a lot of people, like anyone who's even mildly influential. And apart from being a very successful, or at least successful real estate agent, he's also a motivational speaker, and that's something that I pride myself on as well. So we're massively lucky to have Mat join us. I spoke to Mat the other day before we started, and I got a bit of a background about him. Thanks so much for having us, Mat. How are you?
All good, Dan. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thanks. So tell us what you do with yourself, Mat.
I'm a real estate agent on the Central Coast. Number one agent in McGrath. I have 7 offices up here. Used to be homeless, and now I'm not homeless.
So what's on the schedule for you today? What's on your daily schedule today?
Go to the gym twice. Probably 3 or 4 appointments. Make sure the team's running right, and then take care of my 6 kids.
6 kids. How many staff do you have work under you, Mat?
We did have about under me. There's 6 under me, but there's 160 across the business. But we had to let about 30 go recently.
Difficult times in April 2020 with the coronavirus and everything like that. How are you trying to stay positive during this time?
I focus on the end, so I focus on the bounce. So I think there's always changes that comes. There's always, in life, it happens regularly. There's always something you got to work through, but I always focus on when it passes. So at the moment, sure, there's a bit of uncertainty and people are a bit all over the place, but it'll steady out.
I mean, to be a motivational speaker, it's very difficult to be a phony. And what I mean by that is that, I feel in my experience, you need to produce content. There has to be an element of consistency, consistent positivity. And you certainly have your downtime, but it almost runs around the clock. What would you say to my statement there? Would you say that that's correct or incorrect?
The phone rang. What was the one before you said around the block?
I said that when you're a motivational speaker, you have to almost produce consistent content. And it's hard to be a phony. It's hard to be a fake. You have to consistently pump out almost positive content. My content is mainly positive. Do you feel that's the case? And if so,
yeah. Look, I think sometimes people try and be something, not necessarily just a motivational speaker or motivational anything. Like I don't try and motivate people at all. I do it for myself, because it's like I basically just share where I'm up to. It's like an artist writing a song. Quite often they write their best songs when they're going through their trickiest times. And I mainly just talk about my story if I talk about anything. But I think you can lean either side. You either lean on the side of optimism, or lean on the side of pessimism. But I think I naturally just lean on the side of solution.
Yeah.
I think when you do that, your energy is just a much more attractive energy anyway. So I really learned my lesson about trying to, you might watch a Gary V, or you might watch, can't think of Tony Robbins or whoever, and sometimes people try and be like them.
Yeah.
And I think people fall into that little mistake sometimes, because it's like, I think authenticity is the most magnetic thing you can actually have.
Yeah.
And you're going to attract a certain amount of people. And we might look at a Gary V and people might go, oh, wow, he's doing great things and blah, 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 blah. And you think you got to be that for people to watch that.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually opposite. I think everyone has a pretty cool story because they've all been through stuff. And I've just learned a long time ago, if you just share what's coming from here, you're definitely going to penetrate some people. Not everyone, but some.
Yeah. So what do you think, I mean, let's say people such as yourself or people like Gary Vee, what do you think attracts people to you or Gary Vee? Is it authenticity, like you said? Is there anything else? Is it positivity? Somebody could be authentically negative, perhaps.
Yeah, and they'll attract an audience that resonates with that. I think I have a lot of scars. So I have a lot of scars of life.
Yeah.
You know, like all the usual stuff: the drug addiction, homelessness, 6 kids, 2 divorces, building a company, working through all these things. Like, I can't even tell you how much stuff I've had to work through. I was working real estate without a car for a year, and I used to just walk everywhere when I started. And I think people like that, not necessarily that story, but when you've been through a few things, I think you have a certain vibe that I think people like.
Yeah.
And they can just sort of tell that, you know, it's like if you spoke to a colonel that had been through 3 wars and led, you know, platoons of men successfully, and when they speak, there's something about it, like there's something about that depth of experience that just it tends to vibrate deeply in you.
Yeah.
So I think only with myself, and that's all I can really talk about, I think people like the endurance that I've had.
Yeah. It's certainly a fascinating topic, and I mean, you can talk about it for so long. But tell me, what's your definition of success?
Happiness and peace of mind. I think happiness is not, it's happiness, it's thrown around a lot these days, but I think happiness is doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that really is happiness.
Freedom?
And, you can,
you're saying freedom, not being controlled by others or anything?
Not necessarily, because sometimes you don't have freedom if you're working in a job, you know, as a pastry cook or whatever, or any job really, because it's like, but you've got to genuinely like what you do. So, for instance, my son Logan is terrible at school. He can't concentrate to save his life. But put him in the water on a surfboard, he's amazing, one of the best in Australia. And the difference with his energy, you send him to school and he's like, you know, wants to go jump off a cliff, but you put him on the beach and he'll have unlimited happiness. So that's what I mean. When you're doing something that interests you, I think that's where happiness comes from.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important to. You can't always just get out of school and then just go and get a job that you want, whatever. But having the question around what really interests me will lead you to the right job one day.
Yeah.
You just got to really be brave enough to keep following that impulse until one day you find something you're like, yeah, I could be pretty good at this, and I could exchange my time for this. And then peace of mind is like just living in a way that is not for other people. And what I mean by that is I don't wear watches. I drive a Toyota.
Yeah.
I'm a reasonably wealthy guy, but I don't need to pull up in a Ferrari for me to have peace of mind or all this sort of stuff. Or, I don't need the latest watch so people go, wow, that's cool. Peace of mind to me is living in a way that I wake up every day not stressing about, I bought 30 things on Afterpay, credit cards are up to the top, I live in a house that I'm only just affording. You know, all of that stuff, that's the total opposite of peace of mind. I think when you live within your means and you're living in a way that you have a comfortable life and you've got everything you need, it just has a level of satisfaction about it.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, is that for you every day? You know, at what threshold do you need to pass? When I say threshold, I mean waking up unhappy. Like, how many days does it take before, you know, like you go into that unhappy zone? I mean, are you happy every day when you wake up?
Pretty much.
Nice.
I really like routine. You know, I mean, some days you've got a bit less energy than others, But, you know, like my happiness routine, let's call it a happiness routine.
Yeah.
You go to bed at 10 o'clock. You wake up at 5. I do a few things at home. You go to the gym at 5:30. Go train, come home, eat breakfast, cruise around, go to work with people you like, go to the gym again. I'm on my way to the gym now. Go to the gym again, go home, have some dinner, go to bed. That's pretty happiness for me.
Yeah. Have you always been like that?
Yeah. Well, when I say yeah, no, that's not right. No, I haven't. I think when I was younger, I was so keen to get somewhere that I think I literally sent myself into an anxiety place.
Do you mean that you weren't focused on the process? Do you mean you were focused on the end goal? Like you thought that getting to that end goal would have made you feel much more fulfilled? Is that what you meant, being less present?
Yeah, I bought a $200,000 car when I was 28 years old. The watches, the things, I know I say watches all the time, but they're all things you don't need, I've learned. They're all things that I thought would make me feel great, make me feel more successful. And they didn't. They actually make you feel opposite.
Yeah.
So I just really valued, I really value now, it's more about impressing people. Impressing people is, I reckon, the anti-formula of success.
Yeah.
Because when you're stable inside and you feel great about yourself and you feel in alignment with what you want to do, you actually have more power, more energy. Things go better. It's like you tend to have this stride about yourself that, you know, your stamina is better, your connection's better, your presence is better. I reckon that's where the formula for great success lies.
Yeah, I love that, and fulfillment. You know, I've got two almost polarizingly, slightly opposite thoughts on the matter. The first one I'm going to share with you is I agree with you, and I think that primary contentment. I personally don't use the word happiness, but I mean, you know, contentment, fulfillment, meaning, purpose. That for me comes from relationships, all the non-material things. But I've got a question for you. Let's say there's a gentleman watching this and he's got an Aston Martin and he's got a very expensive house and he's got a $50,000 Patek Philippe watch, and he says to you, Matt, I'm happy as well and I've got those things. What would your comment be to that?
Yeah, that's good. It's an individual thing. I have some very, very, very wealthy friends. I'm talking extreme wealth. And one of my mates just bought a $580,000 Aston Martin the other day. There's only 4 in Australia.
Yeah.
He loves it.
Yeah.
You know, but what I'm saying is, don't do that at all costs. Like for me, it would make me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For him, it makes him feel fantastic, but he can afford it.
Yeah.
I think where stress comes is people buy this sort of stuff only just affording it or shouldn't be buying it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that will actually work against your success.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't
stress you out.
Yeah. There's a saying that I use, and the more you own, the more you tend to be owned by your things. But I've got a relative who's unbelievably wealthy. He doesn't live in Australia. He's a property he's in property construction in London. And I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure this conundrum out that, you know, me and you were talking about now. And I said, what if, you know, at what point, and comes back to an individual thing, but I thought at what point, as a percentage, let's say you buy a $50,000 car, but you earn very, very minimal, then yes, you can be controlled by that $50,000 car. But at what threshold is it to buy that $50,000 car and not be stressed by it? And sure, it would be
if you can pay it out if you needed to.
Yeah, I understand. If you needed to, I like that. Are you saying that you tend to rent anything that floats, flies, or I'm not going to say that.
Well, I mean, I have a loan on this car, but I can pay it out if I needed to.
Yeah.
So, pretty much, I don't have a lot of debt in general. It's like buying a house. When you buy a house, start little. Like today, young couples go and buy these McMansions with all these bells and whistles.
Yeah.
With a $700,000 loan and all this sort of stuff. You don't need it. You actually don't need it. So I would buy a house that's worth $450.
Yeah.
And I'd work towards paying that off as quickly as I could.
Yeah.
And I'd make do. And like if you need to renovate it, just wait for the renos. Like you don't need to move in and renovate it. My last house that I had with Shelley, my ex-wife, we bought it 12 or 13 years ago, and for $680,000. I'd just been through another divorce before that, but it's $680,000. We didn't renovate it for 8 years after.
Yeah.
Saved. We paid a lot of it off.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is just do things in a really moderate,
sensible,
timely manner. Yeah. And you once you get it down the track a little bit more, you get to a really solid position in life. Then you can work out if you want to buy the Aston Martin.
Yeah, understand what you're saying. Well, I guess me to finish off that point, and I like that, kind of sensibility. Actually, what I will quickly ask you is, you said, and I know we're going into kind of financial technicalities here, but let's say someone does buy a house and they're paying the principal and the interest. What about people that buy houses and just pay interest only and have no intention on paying it off?
No way in the world.
Why not?
No way in the world. Well, you're just treading water. Like you can get yourself into a bit of a pickle, because if the market goes down and you're paying nothing off for 5 years, 6 years, interest only, just so you live in a house, you're better off renting.
Yeah.
I would be. I would definitely go and rent.
Yeah.
And you got flexibility then. You can't get stuck. You can get liquid very easy. So if the market went down and you're paying interest only, you're going nowhere. And that's how a lot of people got stuck in the GFC. The house became worth less than what it was actually their debt position, so they couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have heard.
I'm not a financial advisor. I don't even pretend to be. I just like. I have a lot of good friends that I ask things. So I ask their advice about. Many years ago, a guy called Gary Teak, he's a billionaire, good friend of mine. He's the largest private investor on the Australian stock market. Just to give you an idea of his part of his wealth, he owns many, many, many properties all through Sydney. And I said, Gary, what's your number one wealth creation tip? And he sat there and he looked at me, 70-something years old now. He said, spend less than you earn.
Yeah.
And then he said, learn about compound interest. And then he said, buy one house, pay it off, then buy another one.
Yeah.
He said, follow those three things, Matt, and you will end up wealthy.
Yeah.
That's from a billionaire, not from me.
Yeah. No, I understand. No, it's nice to hear that even, people such as yourself have these kinds of mentors as well. And it's super interesting. My cousin said to me, we pretty much came to this idea that he said that if you're going to buy, let's say a $50,000 car, just a random kind of number, I believe it was the 20 times rule. Make sure your net worth is 20 times what that car owns. So, I mean, you can imagine the difference in impact things or material things can have on you if you have a net worth of 20 times versus, you know what I mean, if you take a loan out to get it and you can't afford it. So, I mean, like if you're going to buy a 1 million, pound Ferrari, you almost need, in order for you to not be consumed by that, you would almost want to have a personal carer for you. You'd almost need to be able to afford the personal carer as well, because you got to maintain these things. They cost money. Insurance is, everything like that. So I'm a minimalist myself, Matt. I at least pride myself on being a minimalist, a self-proclaimed minimalist. Who's to say where is the line of minimalism? But as long as it's functional. And what I find as well, when I get things that are less expensive, I'm less worried about them, less worried about, losing them, breaking them, because I'm a bloke and I'm heavy with things. And perhaps I should have listened to my dad more when he said, always take care of your things. And I'm not saying I'm reckless, but it's just one less thing to worry about as well. I mean, look at you. Money couldn't pay for the body that you've got there. I mean, you work out twice a day. No, I'm serious though. People can take all the money in the world off you, and you know what? You still got what's up in your head, and you still look like your physical capability. Because I get into my fitness a lot as well, weight training. I've got my bench press right next to me right now, my one at home. And I said to my friend actually the other day, I said, you can take all my money and everything in the world off me, but you can't take this off me, and I'm proud of this. And isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah, very much.
So what are your who inspires you the most?
Different people at different times, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a guy called Mike Thurston, which I watch closely. He's a physique model in Dubai.
Cool.
I like watching what he does. I don't know, wherever I'm up to in life, I always just find one or two people that really are killing it in that area, and I watch them closely, watch all their videos. You learn a lot by video.
Yeah. What about real estate? Who's your biggest inspiration or mentor in real estate?
John McGrath.
Who's John McGrath?
John McGrath he started McGrath Estate Agents, who we franchise from. So he's quite famous in the real estate world. Good guy. He's helped me massively.
How long has he helped you for?
Since the beginning of my career. I sent him a videotape 25 years ago, and he invited me down to have breakfast with him. And about 7 years later, because of that video, and I got to know him pretty well, he offered us the first McGrath franchise. And, 17 years after that, here we are with 7 of them. So it's like, he's just been a fantastic guy.
Yeah. Tell me about, can we just quickly touch base on, where you came from? You told me some things the other day that, it's a draft, it's a very drastic change in where you shifted the direction in your life. You've never always been a successful real estate agent. When you were young, you were actually the polar opposite. You got yourself involved, whether it was intentional or unintentional, regardless, you were caught up in some. Do you mind if I do you want to share the story with us, or do you want me to say?
No, that's fine. I grew up in Maroubra, and then when I was about 17, I went into the city, and then started partying in there. And I liked the scene, so I left the beach and went in there a bit quite often, and went to a gym called City Gym, and I saw all these guys in there. They were just massive, and I asked my mate, how do they get that big? And he's like, steroids and blah, blah, blah. So, can you get me some? I was like, yeah. So he got me some. I started training in there, and then I just turned into this big, huge bodybuilder. And then, this is a very abbreviated version. And then like the gay scene down there. And then I got involved in like the criminal world, like the underworld, and sort of became like a standover man sort of thing. Not exactly, but just used to do all sorts of things in that criminal world. And then, got involved in a lot of drug importation and all that sort of stuff. And then finally, I ended up homeless, funny enough, like years later. And I was under police surveillance for a long time. And I rang a mate who was connected to the bikers up in Terrigal, and I said, mate, can you come pick me up? And he drove down from Terrigal, picked me up, and from the abandoned building I was sort of staying in. And he put me out the back of his parents' house, and I lived there for 9 months, and I was in a pretty bad way, a lot of bad drug psychosis and whatever. I just left with what I was wearing. And then I rang an ex-girlfriend, and one day, like 9 months, just staying in that room, and I said to Lisa, I'm in a bad way. And she's like, yeah, you left a bloody big mess down here. And I was like, yeah. And I said, what should I do? And she said, why don't you get into real estate? So I said, oh, that sounds good. And I just rang everybody in the yellow pages. And a lady gave me a job from this home office sort of thing. And then she put me in a caravan on her property, and I lived there for a bit. And she just said, go door knock. So I door knocked every day, all day. Just walked the streets from suburb to suburb. And about a year later, I caught the bus home. I was living with this elderly lady. I was renting a room off of her. And then I got a phone call from a guy in Killarney Vale where I was working. And he said, I've just been on Australia's Most Wanted. So then I had to go hand myself back in, went to court straight away. I had 14 warrants out for my arrest. And then I was engaged to a young girl then, and her mum came and testified. The old lady came and testified. And the judge at the end of the whole court hearing, she said, look, I don't know about all this. Like, you are meant to go to jail today. And she said, but Matt, I just see some good in you. I'm going to give you a second chance because I can see you're really trying to make something of yourself. And she said, if you come back, you'll be going to jail for half of your life. And I walked out of the courtroom. I still had to do community service for a long time. And it took me 8 years to pay back the fines.
Yeah.
And then I rang Dino, the guy that picked me up, when I walked out of the courtroom, and I said, Dino, I'm going to make you a promise. I'm going to become Australia's #1 agent. And I never looked back.
When you said, I want to be Australia's #1 agent, is that something that you wrote down as a goal? You put it on a vision board? You wrote it on your fridge? You put it on your screensaver of your phone?
Well, yeah. So for McGrath, #1 for McGrath, that's what I had. I ended up being #1 for Rain and Horn, the company that I worked at previously. Where did
you put that? Where did you write that affirmation down specifically?
I had it on a card originally, but then I had it on my screensaver on my phone, #1 in McGrath. So when I was #1 in Rain and Horn, let's say I wrote about 1.2 million for the year. This is 20 years ago. So I went across to McGrath. And when I joined that company, McGrath had all the best agents in them. They would write 3 million plus the #1 guys there. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. It's like 3 times what I'm doing. To give you an idea, when I say like you write 1.2 or 3 million or whatever, most agents write about 250,000. So it's a lot. So it took me 15 years. I said to John McGrath, I'm going to become #1 at McGrath one day. And he said, oh, I don't know, from an area like Terrigal, because we live in a little coastal town, and I'm competing against agents that are in the middle of the city selling, tens of millions of dollars, houses worth $10 million. We're selling little houses. And John said, look, it's doable because it's you, but I would say probably not to everybody else. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to do it. And it took me 15 years to do that. And I've done it for 3 years running now.
I love the yellow pages thing and the door knocking thing when you did in your early days. The lady said, you went looking for a job. You made some. This is after you decided you wanted to become a real estate agent, and all that energy that you had. And I can relate to that a lot. We could go into it, but I had some issues when I was a kid too, and it was the channelment of that energy into something positive. So when you decided to become a real estate agent and you went in the yellow pages, you pretty much went cold calling in an aggressive fashion, which I love. I did the same thing for bricklaying when I was on holidays, when I was studying at university, and I got a job. I said to my mates, I said, watch this, I'll get a job by today, and I did. Would you extend, when you were knocking on houses knocking on doors to sell houses, is that an aggressive mentality? Is that something that everyone should do, something that's looking for a job? When someone says, oh, there's no work out there, do you disbelieve it? Do you have any comment on that?
Oh, mate, I have a teenage son that refuses to work at McDonald's or Coles or anything. Like, I'm like, mate, you can't just pick and choose wherever at the beginning. You do whatever. You can always get a job. I'd walk into the local kebab shop and say, hey, can I get a part-time job? I'll work for free for the first 3 months.
Yeah, love it. Yeah.
That's what I would do. And
Yeah.
I would go anywhere, like a cafe, and just say, hey, I'll just work for free. You know, can I just show you what I'm capable of? If you decide after a month or two, whatever, that I'm the right person, then employ me. But if not, you get some free labor. You've got to put money aside.
Yeah.
You know, like the Broccoli who works with me, he's a guy that films me all day. Great young kid. He never ever talks about money. All he wants to do is do a great job. I'm not to say he doesn't care about money, but I'll always look after him because, well, to give you an idea, when this coronavirus thing came, we had to put off, you know, a fair portion of our company just to keep it steady. And Broccoli was one of the first ones. He said, mate, I'll just work for free. Just don't worry about it. Whenever you can pay me again, just pay me. Mate, that guy, I'll look after him forever now.
Yeah. In the 4 years that I've owned my primary business, I've never had anybody come in and offer themselves to work for free. I mean, I don't even know if I could legally do it. I might not even legally be able to do it. But I've never seen anybody come in an aggressive fashion like that. And a proposition like that as an employer, as you would know, is almost too good to refuse. I mean, how could you refuse that enthusiasm as an employer? So if there are kids out there that are looking for jobs or anything like that, that's what you got to do. Well, that's what you do. That's what you could do.
Yeah, and you got to market yourself. Like getting a job and sending a CV in, it's like you're not going to get the job probably, but doing like take the tip that I got told. I sent John McGrath a video, and you know, doing a video on a phone and getting the owner's number and texting it to them and saying, hey, I'm Joseph. I just wanted to send you this quick video because I'm sure you get some resumes all the time. I wanted to stand out a little bit. I will literally do anything to work for your company. I will work for free. I will be the best worker you've ever seen if you just give me a chance. My number's whatever. Call me. My phone's always on. If you did that, they may ring you now. They may not ring you now, but I promise you they'll remember it.
Yeah. What's your relationship? What's your advice to maintaining good relationships and staying, you know, keeping all the relationships around you healthy and happy? Do you have anything that any tips or any mantras that you live by?
Yeah, integrity. Every time I've stuffed up a relationship, I haven't been honest, or I haven't done the right thing by them, or I've spoke about them behind their back, or something like that over the time. I'll never do that stuff again.
Yeah.
So I think trust is the reason relationships endure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you value someone, don't ever talk behind their back. Say it to their face. Never tell them something that it's not right, even if it may hurt.
Yeah.
It's like you're better off owning it and saying, hey, I stuffed up. This is what it is. They'll respect you more, and it will just build over time.
Yeah. And I notice, you know, twice in those sentences that you just spoke, you took accountability. You took responsibility. You admitted what you did was wrong in the past. You made some mistakes, as we all do. It's a hard thing to admit, particularly, I think, as a young person. It's hard to adult up and say that you stuffed up. It hurts the ego because you're sometimes trying to make this impression that you are perfect. Where did you learn, or at what age did you learn to take full responsibility for everything in your life? What was the triggering factor?
I just could see that things go better. I don't know when, but, you know, I lived a life, you got to understand, I lived a life of survival before.
Yeah.
Like I lived a life of just, I'd do anything to get drugs, to do whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
My life wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But when I saw the power of clarity, I saw the power of trust. You know, like my mate who I'm just training with here, we would call each other family. Like there's a few really close friends with family, and family, like the reason that's so powerful is like usually with your family, you don't have to, there's this energy of connection.
Yeah.
And it's like, I value that way more than, saying something behind my mate's back that someone else might hear. And there's no worse feeling when someone rings you and say, hey, I've just heard you said this about me.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to live like that at all anymore. That was many years ago, but I just didn't want to live like that anymore. And even with girlfriends over time, if I haven't been completely honest with them, you might be texting a girl or someone might text you or whatever, and you might think it's all right, but it always comes out somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's something about walking a line of like trust. If you have a really deep trust, probably the most powerful feeling between two people that there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that getting to know yourself and knowing what you like, and also having good intentions, those things over my life, things have shifted from probably not so good intentions, possibly greed slightly. I mean, that hurts me to say that about myself, but I have had moments in my life where I've been greedy, and it's almost sour to say it. But since the intentions in my life are genuine, as an example, doing these kinds of interviews, my intentions are fantastic because I actually want to have an impact on young kids. And that makes things, you can be more honest in that. So, having good intentions and getting to know yourself and knowing what your weaknesses are. Like some people say, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to come here? And I say, well, I could, but I'm not going to commit because I know on weekends I like to do bugger all. And so I think getting to know yourself also helps with not getting yourself stuck in certain situations. But that's what's helped me over time as well. Matt, I really appreciate your time. It's been amazing. You are an extrovert. You are an extrovert, like inspirational. Oh, I just love it. I love your energy, and I love all your motivational videos. Where can people find you if they want to follow you for more inspiration?
Mat Steinwede on Instagram is the best one.
And how do you spell that?
I knew you were going to say that. M-A-T.
Yep.
S-T-E-I-N-W-E-D-E.
Awesome. Matt, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy your workout.
Thanks a lot. See you, Dan.
Thanks, mate. Bye.